Bimal Chandra Halder studied up to class 5. As a child, he dreamed of becoming a singer, but life had other plans. He had to leave both school and his dream to support his family. His father, Brindavan Chandra Halder, was a fisherman, and Bimal left his singing aspirations behind to follow in his footsteps. The dream he had as a young man faded as he got caught up in the daily grind of fishing. But Bimal still has his voice, and it is a wonderful gift to have. While he works, he sings, and his voice carries a beautiful tune that blends with the natural beauty of Bengal. It's as if the melodies he sings capture the life and soul of the place he calls home. Today, we've travelled to a village called Mohangonj, about 250 kilometres from Dhaka. It is in Bagmara Upazila, Rajshahi Division. This is Bimal's home. His family makes a living fishing in the Baranoi River, which flows through the village. We're going to spend the day with him and his family, learning about their struggles and witnessing their unique fishing techniques. Welcome to the story of a fisherman's life, one of the many unsung heroes of the Third World. The moon hangs in the eastern sky, and there's still plenty of time before sunrise, but Bimal is already up. Dressed in a lungi and bare-chested, he steps out onto the veranda of his home. After pulling on a t-shirt, he brushes his teeth and washes his face with cold water in preparation for another day of hard work on the river. Bimal grabs his fishing net and fish container and heads out towards the riverbank, which isn't far from his home. Due to the monsoon season, the edge of the river is ever closer than usual. His boat is a simple wooden vessel called a dinghy boat. It's tied to a tree on the riverbank to ensure it isn't stolen in the night. These small wooden boats are a common sight on the local rivers. He climbs aboard with his gear and empties the water that is pooled in the bottom before he sets off toward the usual fishing spot, known as Kaya. His boat has no engine. Bimal has to row by hand. A Kaya is a traditional setup made of bamboo poles with a large net fixed to the front. Bimal has arrived at his workplace, his office, if you will. But this is not an office as we know it. Life on the river is a far cry from life in an office block. Bimal lowers his net into the water and settles in. He hopes for good fortune. Now he must leave it and wait for 15 to 20 minutes before checking for fish. Back at home, the rest of Bimal's family are only just waking. His wife gets to work, while their only son, Bimal, heads to the nearby tube well for a quick morning routine. After brushing his teeth and washing up, he returned home for a light breakfast of puffed rice before settling down to study. After the cleaning is finished, Mrs. Bimal takes her bath and prepares for the family's daily worship, an important part of the day in their Hindu household. Most of the fishing families in Bangladesh are Hindu, meaning their morning always starts with prayer. Flowers are gathered in preparation for the puja in the tiny corner of their bedroom, set aside for worship. Starting every day with positivity and gratitude is at the centre of her daily prayers. In Bangladesh, there are around 1.4 million families that make a living from fishing. They live in areas known as Jilpara, or fishing villages, which are usually located along riverbanks. These villages are often underdeveloped, and the fishing village in Mohangonj is no different. Around 15 families live there, packed into neighbouring modest plots of land. Houses like Bimal's are usually simple brick structures with tin roofs. The whole house sits in the shade of the large guava tree in the yard. Bimal's house has 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a small veranda, and a room for their livestock. There is no fancy furniture or modcons. Most fishermen in the area are even less well off than Bimal and his family, and even more basic living conditions are common in these communities. Bimal's son Bishal is only 15, but he is already starting to help his father with fishing, just as Bimal did when he was a child. Once his studies are finished, he heads to a second boat, tied by the riverbank, and paddles off to meet his father on the river. These dinghies are not easy to steer, but Bishal is already a skilled boatman. He rows smoothly through the water, making his way to his father with confidence. Bimal pulls up the net, but no luck, the net is empty. Looks like today won't be a good day, he says. However, a persevering spirit is needed to live this lifestyle, and Bimal casts his net again. Meanwhile, with his father's permission, Bishal checks the net he set the day before. He's barely luckier than his father had been. A few local fish are caught in the net, but not many. We usually catch a lot more fish than this, Bishal comments. Another danger faced by fishermen on the river is snakes. It isn't unusual to find snakes caught up in their nets. Today, there are several. It's tricky to remove them and dangerous. Eventually, they have to cut the net to free the snakes. After checking the whole net, it becomes clear that today's catch is not a good one. Bimal pulls up another empty net, clearly disappointed to find once again that it is empty. He thinks the lack of fish today might be due to there being no current in the river. That can be a temporary problem, but Bimal knows the issue runs much, much deeper. Bangladesh is known for its rivers, playing host to the world's largest river delta. However, the number of rivers flowing through the country is decreasing. Where there were originally 1,300 rivers, including the many smaller branches and tributaries. The number now sits at around 400. For the people of Bangladesh, who have a unique connection to the rivers, forming a huge part of the country's identity, this is a sad reality. Many families still rely on fishing for their livelihoods, with rivers still providing around 70% of the country's fish supply. Sadly, the situation is still getting worse. According to the Asian Water Development Outlook 2016, Bangladesh has the most polluted rivers among the 48 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. More and more waste is being dumped into the rivers, turning them into flowing garbage dumps. Some rivers are being encroached upon, making rivers disappear altogether, despite this being against the law in Bangladesh. Those who depend on the rivers to survive are finding their very existence threatened. Baranoi River is no different. It starts from a floodplain in the Mohangonj district and flows into the mighty Padma River. Once it was alive and full of fish. Now it couldn't feel more dead. We saw clear signs of this during our visit. Encroachment and piles of garbage littering the banks. This pollution has raised the water's pH level, making it uninhabitable for fish. Bimal speaks with despair. There used to be a plentiful supply of shrimp in this river, but now they have become extinct. Even during the monsoon season, usually the peak time for fishing in the year, the catch is pitiful. In the drier seasons like winter and summer, it's almost gone altogether. During those seasons, fishermen like Bimal are now forced to take on hard labour jobs just so they can continue to support their families. Bimal has decided enough is enough. It's time to stop using the kia for fishing today, opting instead for a different method, no less traditional. For this technique, he will need Bishal's help. While Bimal skillfully casts his new net into the river, Bishal keeps the boat steady. Unfortunately, Lady Luck just isn't on their side today. It is soon time for Bishal to go to school, so between them, the father and son agree that it's time to stop fishing, at least for now. They collect the few small fish that were caught by their nets and head back home. Once they arrive, Bishal quickly changes into his school uniform, slings his bag over his shoulder and prepares to leave. His school is just a 5-minute walk from home, but he needs his breakfast before a day of study. With no food ready at home, they decide to go to the market together for a meal. Bishal will drop off his bag at school and then join his father for breakfast. While he waits, Bimal plans to sell the fish they caught. Following this plan, Bishal heads to school, and Bimal makes his way to the market with the fish basket. When he arrives, he sees that many vendors have already set up their stalls. This is the Mohangonj market, where around 5,000 people from the village and nearby areas come to buy all of their daily necessities. Markets like this are common across Bangladesh. The market is lined with shops on both sides of the Bagmara Rajshahi Road. You can buy almost everything, from fresh vegetables to fish, meat and medicine. If you need it, the market is the place to find it. As soon as Bimal sits down with the fish, Customers begin to surround him. In no time, his fish are all sold, but with so few to sell, his income is limited. It's very hard to support his family with so little. Lines of worry appear on Bimal's forehead. Having sold his daily catch, Bimal heads to a nearby hotel to have breakfast, joined shortly after by Beetle. Their hotel breakfast consists of paratha, a type of fried flatbread, lentils and fried eggs. This is the most common hotel breakfast in Bangladesh. Some people prefer khichdi, a dish made of rice and lentils. Today, father and son both decide to eat paratha, lentils and fried eggs. After finishing his food, Beetle heads back to his classroom, where the lesson has already begun. The room is full of other students focused on their studies. This is not a modern school. The classroom is in a poor state of repair. Peeling plaster covers the walls, electrical wires are hanging in dangerous places, and a coating of dust covers the tables. The teacher's lounge is just as derelict. This isn't even the original school building. That building stands nearby, now completely abandoned, with a collapsed roof and piles of garbage sitting where students used to. In front of the school, there's a large playground. Across the field is the primary school, where the morning assembly is underway. Small children all stand in line, reciting oaths, and after singing the national anthem, they clap before heading to their classrooms to begin their studies. At least the primary school looks to be in better condition. However, the quality of education remains low. Both teachers and students have a lack of commitment and discipline. Government funding for education is usually embezzled along with other funding by local political leaders. Political corruption is widespread across Bangladesh. This is robbing an entire generation of a proper education. Meanwhile, Bimal finishes his breakfast and sets off around the market to do the shopping. He purchases some vegetables and spices before visiting the pesticide shop to buy medicine for his beetle leaf garden. These pesticide shops are vital for local farmers, allowing them to protect their valuable crops. Then Bimal buys some beetle leaves. Beetle is a popular snack in Bangladesh, and the Bagmara Upazila is well known for beetle leaf production. Bimal also grows his own beetle. With a piece of beetle leaf in his mouth, Bimal packs up 2 more packets and sets off back to his home. When he arrives, he hands the groceries to his wife and heads down to his beetle leaf garden, right by the riverbank. He needs to tie the new beetle leaves to the support sticks. The process takes around 1 hour to complete. With skilled hands, Bimal gets to work. He has set up his beetle garden on rented land. And during the off-season, it helps him earn a living by selling beetle leaves rather than buying them. Back at school, Bimal decides today he should not stay for the full day. Given the morning's poor catch, returning home to help his father with another fishing trip is more important than studies. Keeping the family fed has to take priority for fishing families like Bimal's. Bimal leaves school early, even though his class is in session, and meets Bimal. This time, they plan to go deeper into the river to look for fish. As they make their way out into the river, they cast their nets along the way, on the off chance they catch something worthwhile. They pass a bridge connecting two villages and catch glimpses of a brick kiln and part of the Mohangonj market. Many others are fishing in the river using a wide variety of techniques unique to the local area. Others are relaxing along the riverbank. Some of the other fishermen further downstream are using cotton nets. Even though it's illegal to use this type of net, people generally turn a blind eye to the practice. Unfortunately, the bad luck from this morning has continued. Father and son try and try, but they still haven't been able to catch any fish. This is becoming more common, but rather than panic, the pair know they just have to keep trying. Meanwhile, back at home, Mrs. Bimal is busy preparing lunch for the family. She chops vegetables and washes the rice to start cooking. All the families in the area use water from the tube well for their meals. She cooks on a traditional Bondu stove, a local clay stove that is very eco-friendly compared to many modern methods. Today's menu, a meal of rice, fish and vegetables. For many families in Bangladesh, this is a staple lunch. As Mrs. Bimal chops and cooks, the delicious smell of home-cooked food fills the air. Finally, something for Bimal to smile about. He has caught a local catfish in his net. Bimal explains that today is unusually slow. On a good day, he usually sells about $10 to $12 worth of fish. Father and son keep trying to catch more, but their luck doesn't improve. Before they know it, the sun is high in the sky and it's time to head home to eat. As they row back toward their home, they pause to admire the beauty of the riverbanks. Ducks swim happily in the water, and the branches of the trees lining the shore are full of sleeping, hanging bats. Bimal's home comes into view, and the smell of lunch carries through the air. Mrs. Bimal has finished cooking, so Bimal and Bimal head back down to the river for a bath. Bimal joyfully jumps into the water and swims across to the other side. At this moment, it's clear that he's still just a teenager. Other children his age in more well-off parts of Bangladesh and other countries would spend their days playing or in school. Bimal has to balance studies with hard manual labour, helping his father put food on the table. Life is not easy for Bimal. After their bath, it's finally time to eat. The whole family gathers on the porch to enjoy their meal together. Once they finish eating, Bimal sits down to mend his fishing net. Living this lifestyle means there is hardly any time for relaxation until the sun goes down at least. The harsh realities of a fisherman's life are always there. With a needle and thread, Bimal sews together the story of his life. During the rainy season, Bimal usually earns about $10 a day. This income must cover daily living expenses and save for the off-season. To help with expenses, he also takes loans from various NGOs, which he must repay weekly. Today, a loan collector arrives at their home to collect this week's payment. After paying the instalment, Bimal goes back to mending his fishing net. After sewing for a while, he heads to a small, dark tea stall for a cup of tea. Here, people gather to chat about various issues while sipping their drinks. Bimal takes a cigarette as he enjoys his hot cup of tea. So far, today has been tough. His catch has been pitiful. This inconsistent type of income is just part of Bimal's day-to-day life. Somehow, he still manages to get by and provide for his family. He finishes his tea and decides it's time to try something new. If the river isn't yielding any fish, perhaps the Beetle will. The Beetle is the local wetland, and it's somewhere Bimal doesn't usually fish. But today he has little else to lose. Usually, Beetle would spend the afternoon studying, but today he chose to join his father for more fishing. They set off together on an engine-operated van toward the Beetle. A narrow paved road winds down through the village. Battery-operated vans, bicycles and motorcycles are the most common modes of transport here and are essential for rural life in Bangladesh. The distance from the Mohangonj to the Beetle is about 4 kilometres. As they travel, they pass houses, ponds and markets, all surrounded by lush greenery. Soon they arrive at the Beetle area. A huge pond stretches out before them, lined with rows of mango trees. On the other side of the pond lies the Beetle itself. Bimal and Beetle walk towards the Beetle. This large natural water body is rich in life, while the wetlands dry up in the summer and winter, making way for various crops. The rainy season brings a surge of fish into the flooded Beetle. Numerous areas like this can be found all over Bangladesh, providing vital resources for local families during the monsoon. Bimal and Beetle wade out into the waist-deep water, determined to reach the middle of the Beetle where they have set their nets. It's a beautiful scene, filled with blooming water lilies. Nearby, villagers bring their livestock along to graze in these lush surroundings. As Bimal closes in on the centre of the Beetle, dark clouds begin to gather ominously in the western sky, and strong winds begin to blow up. The day's bad luck seems to get worse. A storm is coming. Banana trees sway violently, and rain begins to fall in a deluge. This father and son team is not put off by the weather. They need a catch. Bimal checks his net, thunder and rain in the air. He's hoping for a good catch, but the results are barely better than earlier today. He finishes his check and places the few fish he pulled out into his container before balancing water lilies on Beetle's shoulder as they make their way out of the Beetle. Now it's finally time to head home and end a day's hard work. It hasn't gone completely to plan, but it has been a day filled with effort, which is all Bimal can control. Another struggle-filled day in Bimal's life comes to an end. It can be hard to empathise with Bimal and his lifestyle. Many people in rural areas of Bangladesh are far removed from urban modern life. They face constant struggles just to put food on the table twice a day. There is little to no government support or infrastructure to help them. Every person in timeless rural Bangladesh endures a life filled with challenges. Each profession strives to sustain life in its own way, but individuals like Bimal face even greater hardships. From the crowing of the rooster at dawn until dusk, his relentless struggle for survival continues, yet life moves on at its own pace. One day, Beetle will likely follow in his father's footsteps and become a fisherman himself. In his later years, he will perhaps share his own tales tinged with regret. Sadly, this is a reality that many families in rural Bangladesh confront every day.